And thank you so much to this amazing panelists we have here today to talk about the role of local community theaters and what they bring and why they're so important and amazing and crunchy and incredible and magical. And so thank you to the panelists and thank you to the people who are tuning in now. My name is Manny Yacutiel. I don't own a community theater, but I own a small business on the corner of 16th and Valencia. And the thing that I am most proud of is being the neighbor to the Roxy. That is on my tombstone. That's what it's going to say. Manny Yacutiel owned a small business next to the Roxy. And in addition to that, we host civic programming, and we've moved our programming online to match the moment. And so thank you for tuning in to the last day of Manny's Super Civic Cyber Conversations. And so, yeah, let's just get right into it. Lex, Adam, and Dan, if you don't mind, just really quick for those who don't know, like talk for a second about the theater that you represent, how long it's been around, and give me I want you to tell me one story of like a really magical moment that comes to mind in the theater of recent note. Let's start with Lex.
Ooh, put me on the spot. Well, hi, I'm Lex Sloan. I'm the executive director of the Roxy Theater and neighbor to Manny's. And thank you so much, Manny, for bringing us together to have this conversation, which is so important and hopefully inspiring at this time. Yeah, so the Roxy Theater is one of the longest continuously operating theaters in the country. We've been operating for well over 100 years. And we had a few different names in the beginning, but we've been the Roxy since 1932. I like to say that the Roxy has lived a lot of different lifetimes, and I think probably all of our theaters have. But in 2009, we became a nonprofit organization, and that's when we really kind of leaned into community-driven, people-powered programming. So yeah, trying to think of one of my favorite memories of recent Roxy past, and we've had, so many great experiences from huge names like Quentin Tarantino, who we had up in the booth, to Patton Oswalt, who picked his favorite movie. I think my favorite personal memories may be smaller than that, more intimate conversations with filmmakers. This last year, we were so fortunate to be able to screen The Last Black Man in San Francisco with the filmmakers and the talent. And we had 4 sold out screenings with such just deeply moving Q&As. And so I would say that was probably one of my highlights of the last year.
Awesome. Thanks, Lex. What about you, Adam?
So, hi, my name's Adam Bergeron, and I own and operate the Balboa Theater and the Vogue Theater in San Francisco. The Vogue has been around since 1912, questionable, but probably since 1912. The Balboa has been around since 1926, so those are both pretty old theaters. We are a for-profit organization. We have a community-driven mission, but there's no board of directors. I have a management team of 5 really dedicated people, managers, and then we have a staff of 16 altogether, and it's kind of amazing how dedicated and into it everybody is. Each of these theaters kind of represents a specific neighborhood that they're in. The Vogue is in Lower Pacific Heights, and so our programming is slanted towards what that neighborhood is looking for. The Balboa is in the outer Richmond, and that is so that's really, it's really family programming and specialty programming, and our program is kind of all over the map at the Balboa. And a story, not that long ago, there was a couple that came into the Balboa, and you could tell that they were pretty old, but they ended up being older than I thought, and they had had their first date at the Balboa in 1945. Right, they were 90 some odd years old, and just coming back to the movies like it was nothing, and that's pretty amazing,
Did they visit? Do they still live in San Francisco? They came back to San Francisco.
Yeah, no, they still live in the neighborhood. We don't see them much. I think they're in their 90s now, but they come around, and that this is their special spot because that's where their first date was.
Did they tell you what
End of World War II?
Did they tell you what movie they saw?
No one can ever remember what movie they saw. I always ask, and no one can ever remember. People say, "Oh, I've been coming here since '74." I say, "Oh, what movie?" And they say, "I don't know. I saw a lot of movies."
Okay. Oh my God, that's incredible. Thank you so much, Adam.
That's great. What Adam says too there, we were talking earlier before you came on about swapping stories of people who've gotten married in our theaters. I mean, that is the epitome of community, right? I love those stories. Dan Zastrow, I'm the general manager of the Smith-Raphael Film Center, do programming there. The theater was built in 1920 as the Orpheus. In 37, it was gutted by fire and rebuilt in 1938 as an Art Deco theater, the Raphael, and operated as a family-run business for many years, and then had, after that, been leased out to some different chain theaters. And then in '89, after the Loma Prieta earthquake, there was a significant amount of damage. It's been pretty run down at that point, too, after all those years as a, kind of a sub-house. And at that time, our current executive director and founder of the California Film Institute, Mark Fishkin, of course, had been running the Mill Valley Film Festival since 1977. He'd been looking for a year-round home to do specialty community cinema on a daily basis, but in the best possible cinematic experience that we could. So a huge capital campaign to renovate the theater. We reopened it in April of 1999. We've been 20 years now since the reopening. So it closed in '89, reopened in '99. It was closed for 10 years, multiple times under threat of going under the wrecker's ball. Reopened in '99. That's when I came on the project as general manager, and going strong since then. Of course, we produced, like I said, the Mill Valley Film Festival. This will be our 43rd year. So let me think. There are so many amazing filmmakers and events and festivals we've had. We recently did Tarantino with Once Upon a Time in Hollywood, and that was really great. But I'll tell you, the stuff that I remember the most and really dear to my heart are just like you said, Lex, it's the little things. We showed, this ain't great cinema, but we showed the Cat Video Fest. Now, what's wonderful about that is that a portion of the box office goes back to Humane Society, in our case, in Marin County.
These were videos of cats?
It's just cat. There's nothing real cinematic. You could literally go on YouTube probably and find most of these things, but it's on the big screen, right? And it's packaged together also as a benefit for local cat rescue or Humane Society. Yeah. So we had 340 people in that room, mostly little girls dressed up as cats. As I'm introducing the movie, they're all meowing at me.
That is so cute.
Okay, so that is pretty cool.
I love that. Lex, I want to make sure you and I are sharing the stage here. I just have one thing that just came to mind while you all were talking was, I mean, I'm from Los Angeles, born and raised, and so movies and the movie industry, that I was fed on it, right? My mother used to unplug the house phone, because back then there were no cell phones, even when I was growing up, every Sunday at 6 o'clock during Siskel and Ebert, because she didn't want to be it was time for Siskel and Ebert. No one could talk. We needed to hear what they had to say. And that was the house I grew up in. It was serious business, the movies. And I grew up in a very sheltered environment. And so movies were the great escape for me. And to this day, before shelter in place, I see 1, 2, sometimes 3 movies a week alone. Whenever I needed to de-stress, I think a lot of you, maybe you're shaking your heads, you can identify. Movies are my way of escaping and being with myself. And it's super cathartic and creative for me. And so I guess I have to bring us to today and say it feels like theaters have been like an organ, a creative organ for so many of us, but so many of our spaces are shuttered. And so I kind of want to get your thoughts on that and how y'all feeling about that. And if you think we're going to be able to get back to that place and that purpose served.
Oh boy, who are you asking that of?
Whoever feels taken by the spirit to answer it.
Well, let me tell you how you're describing your relationship with cinema. I know all of us feel that way. And there's the other side of that, where cinema is also about discovery and the communal experience, right? So yeah, there is some cinema that you can consume from this laptop I'm sitting in front of, and there's other cinema that absolutely requires that building to go to and that community to be with. And I'll real quick, I'll let these guys talk. I don't want to gobble up all the time, but what's really tough about this current situation is that when there have been times of national crisis, one of the things we've always had is the cinema to go to, and we don't have that now. So it's tough. It's tough for me.
Right. Thinking about that 92-year-old couple in 1945, I bet they really appreciated having the Balboa to go to get out of the situation, you know?
Right. Yeah, and it's, you know, it's funny because nobody has to invite you to the movies, right? You just go to the movies. You know, it's not like a party or you know, you can just go, and it's always amazing. And I'm sure that Dan and Lex can corroborate this. It's amazing how many people go to the movies alone.
Yeah.
Sometimes you have 30 people in a matinee, and almost all of them are alone. You know, that's definitely, it's something that people do on their own, but it's got a social quality to it.
Yes.
As well. You know, there's, in this time, it is tough. I mean, I get, you know, part of being a community theater is, you know, your customers, and you have a relationship with them, and you also have an email relationship with them, right? There's a newsletter and they reply to it. And I mean, just so mine goes out on Thursday mornings, I probably replied to a dozen people today, and just little things. You know, we had added some little bits of merchandise, and they just said, "Hey, it looks good," and you know, and you know, and it's all a little bit of "I miss you," and it's kind of amazing how that's a funny relationship. I've owned bars and restaurants and now movie theaters for the last bunch of years, but for my whole adult life, I've never had an email relationship with my customers, and I've really had some good friends at the bars and restaurants, but we didn't email. You know, like it's an extra little level. Like I feel like I don't know, we're buds, you know, it's real.
Yeah.
Yeah, definitely. I was actually just Zooming one of our members yesterday, just checking in to say hi, because you get so accustomed to seeing these people's faces who come out, you know, day after day each week, and it's definitely hard to not see them. Yeah, and I've been thinking a lot about this idea that you said of being alone watching a movie, you know, but we're never alone when we're in the theater. We're there with other people feeling emotions simultaneously, whether that's anger, laughter, discovery. It's like this amazing place that you can be alone and sucked into a movie, but then still be together collectively. And I've been going into the Roxy, you know, a couple times a week to make sure everything's taken care of, power up the projectors. And even though people have been out of the Roxy for going on 7 weeks now, it's the craziest thing. I can really hear the theater still has a heartbeat.
Huh.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Wow. That's powerful, Lex.
It's true. Yeah. Well, I was curious to ask Dan and Adam, and I may chime in, but, you know, how would you describe some of the differences between maybe a smaller local theater like ours and a megaplex? And we were talking about people going back to the theaters, and yeah, do you mind speaking to that?
You want to take it first, Dan?
Well, I was thinking about how people approach cinema at a community cinema, right? And this is no knock against commercial outfits and megaplexes, but the words I come up with, if you're going to a big multiplex to see the latest Marvel film, you're consuming it. When you come to our theaters, you're experiencing it, right? To me, that's a big difference. We're gathering at the Roxy. We go to the movies. You know what I mean? People go to the Roxy. They don't say the specific film they're going to, do they? When they come to Raphael, we're going to the Raphael. They're not saying we're going to the movies. I mean, that just says it all to me.
Yeah. Wow.
Yeah, and I think there's specialty programming that you can do in these little theaters that you couldn't even begin to do in the big ones. You wouldn't go to see something wacky, you know, and it doesn't feel like the right environment in the big places, you know, in the multiplex. Whereas, you know, you can, you know, we can all, and we all do little niche programming, you know, and if you can, and luckily, you know, you can do a movie where 50, 60, 70 people come and it's okay. You know, I mean, you could do a movie that 20 people come to and it's okay. You know, and I often do. And but there's, you know, you're serving a real, like a niche group, you know, I don't know, they're specialty groups of people, you know, and hopefully their feelings align with your feelings too. And every theater's kind of got its own vibe,
Yeah.
right? And, you know, the fans sort of, you know, water finds its own level kind of thing.
But what's interesting about that is what's great with our audience is that they don't necessarily have to, as long as they're trusting you, they trust your curation, they trust that you're bringing them quality, they don't have to like every time what you're presenting them. And I know you all have the same relationship. People come out and they'll tell me why the film they just saw wasn't for them, what they didn't like about it, but it's not a critique of what you're doing. That's okay for, and in there lies the wonderful post-film conversation, right?
Yeah.
We just walked out and went, that was a great movie, and went home, but it's the conversation. I know you guys both have this experience too. Trying to shut down your theater at the end of a long day and no one leaves the lobby because they want to keep talking.
Yeah.
I guess they go next door to Manny's, right? Is that what they do?
Yes, hopefully.
Yes.
There's a lot of options on that corner, but hopefully a couple of them come to Manny's.
Yeah, thank goodness. And I think, Dan, you really, you touch on the point that we are all offering more than just movies, right? We are all far beyond just a place to consume entertainment. And I think that this idea that the screening doesn't end with the credits, that there is this Q&A, this dialogue, however that is fostered, whether it's just our members continuing to have the conversation in the lobby about, you know, the aesthetics of the film or whatnot, that it really is more than just a movie that we're offering our audiences. And I think that really separates us from the megaplexes. And hopefully, you know, that's what will encourage people to come back to our cinemas when we're able to fire back up the projectors and turn back on our neon. So yeah.
Something about those little neons too, you know, they really kind of begin to define what that neighborhood is, right? Totally. You know, there's you can't imagine the neighborhood without you know, that glowing neon happening at night, right? It makes that neighborhood something, and if you took it away, it would be different.
Oh,
even
absolutely.
if you don't go to the movie, even if you never go to the movies, you love to have that neon in your neighborhood, you know?
This is kind of like it goes without asking, but I'm going to ask it anyway. Like, where do you think the three of you are? What is going to be your role and responsibility once people are going to be allowed to venture out and into your three respective spaces? How are you going to rise to the occasion, and where do you think your responsibility is going to be in this moment of, you know, real crisis?
I think that in an interesting way, the three of us, I mean, this is going to be tough. There's going to be a lot to work through. There's a lot we don't know right now, but in some weird way, and three of us were talking about this a few days ago, part of this is going to be a little easier on the community theater because we already have that relationship with our community. So we can talk to them about what we're going to do and the protocols and the safety things we're going to put in place. And they know us and they trust us. Again, this is not a knock against the big commercial theater, but if you're going to a 20-screen theater and you don't know everyone and you're hoping they're doing all the right things, and, you know, but with us, they're going to come up, Dan, so how does this work now? And I'm going to tell them.
And I would echo that same thing. What I really, as far as creative programming, it's funny. I'm sure we could all sit down and map out 25 film festivals right now, right? And so that are raring to go as soon as this is over, even if there's no new movies to come out. And I think we can, having interesting content presented in an interesting way isn't the problem, or even the problem's not the word. isn't the challenge. I want the customers to come to those offerings and to feel not just like it's safe, but that they're taken care of, you know. And I think it's got to be this extra level when we first get back that goes, because I think everyone will come back once, but I want them to come back that first time and go, oh, okay, good, you know, good. These guys have thought it over. They have a plan. This is safe for me. I feel good about it. I can bring my kids here. I can bring my older parent here, you know, and I think that's beyond, it's more than just doing the protocols. It's actually going a step to make them actually feel a certain safety, which is just a little different, you know?
Yeah.
Yeah, and I think I would just add to that, you know, something we've all been talking about is our virtual cinemas and our virtual screening rooms that we're offering right now, which has been a whirlwind, crazy experiment of how to bring our programming online, and thinking about being a continuously operating cinema like the Roxy. Even though our physical doors may be shut, we wanted to continue to be tastemakers and programmers and curate for our audiences. And so one thing that I'm really thinking is, how do we take these lessons we're learning from this time that our doors are shut and our virtual cinema is open, and make some kind of hybrid of these two models, especially when, you know, certain people just won't be able to come back to the cinema for a while.
Yeah. What else is on your mind, Lex? And while Lex is drinking some water, I want to let folks know, if you have questions for any of our three panelists, now is a good time to type them in. Do you have one more thing on your mind before we get to audience Q&A?
Oh, I just opened the audience Q&As and they're making me so happy. No, I mean, if Dan or Adam, I know we could continue talking for hours. But.
Yeah, there's so much. I mean, one quickie in my mind is, all three of your theaters have been around for so long. Like, a lot of other kinds of businesses have not lasted. Why do you think these small local community theaters have lasted? Is it really just the fact that they have a strong tie to the community, or is there something else that gives them staying power?
Well, you know, you also have some of that same kind of community love, and these places aren't around so much anymore, right? The bookstore, the record store, you know, that coffee shop that you got that same coffee every morning for 30 years, right? Yeah. Those places become really communal. But I think the reason that cinema above all else is it's such an immersive experience that it gets at you at a level that none of these other things can get at.
Yeah. Okay. So it's community, it's being part of someone's routine, and it's about creating a novel experience you can't get somewhere else. And you're not worried about like the big bells and whistles theaters that offer, like, you know, full meals and foot massages and all that, you know.
What I've been saying is that what's going on now is horrible. It's literally stopped our industry in its tracks. But in another way, it's exposed how different our end of cinema exhibition is compared to the commercial cinema exhibition. Within a week of this shutdown, we were going online. We were reaching out with education opportunities for our memberships, for schools, doing live stream Q&As. We immediately pivoted and found a way to keep in the lives of our community. There's not a single big chain theater doing that, is there? So that's so how do we survive in this new world? By not being them.
Yeah.
Yeah, and I mean, I think it really goes back to the relationships that we build over time. And that's the relationships that our box office managers and concessionaires build with our patrons and our customers, and the conversations that they have. And it's the relationships that we have with our film festivals and our community partners. And that's, to me, what makes the Roxy so special, is that we're a part of a web. We're a part of an ecosystem of all of these different artists. And, what Megaplex is going to say, hey, local filmmaker, come on over and have your premiere here, have your memory, your bright shining moment, your red carpet. Like, we want you here, and we want to amplify your voice. And, I know at the Roxy, and I'm sure with every theater here represented, we're constantly thinking about underrepresented voices. And, you know, where are those voices and those movies are being made? How can we make sure that we're showing them at the Roxy and that we're helping get that story out? I think, yeah,
We've all had that experience, haven't we, Lex? Standing in the back of the theater with a filmmaker, seeing their film projected on a big screen for the first time. It just, oh my God, it is one of the best part of our jobs.
Yeah.
It is kind of like an artistic public service.
Yeah.
I want to ask you some of these questions, okay? So we have some love. Ken Rosenthal says go Lex.
Thanks, Ken.
Dan Goldis says hi Lex. So Lex is getting a lot of love right now. We have 3 good questions. Let's try to get to them. Gina asks, hi, thank you for the wonderful conversation. I have 2 questions for your guests. What does the future for your theaters as a community gathering space for film look like to you and your organizations as you plan for reopening? And then have you been able to find something positive out of this experience for you, your relationship with your audience, your distributors? Maybe have you found new audiences during this time? And that question was from Gina.
Well, I'll speak to that just really briefly. I think we kind of talked a little bit about reopening. You know, to me, it's been incredible how this network of art house cinemas from across the country has come together, and the support from the distributors figuring out like so quickly this new distribution model to help us be able to launch our virtual cinemas. You know, I've got to give a huge shout out to the Art House Convergence, because they put together an amazing, with Criterion and Janus Film, an amazing Art House America campaign on GoFundMe, which last I looked has raised over $500,000. It's been supported by some amazing people. And I gotta be honest, people have left comments when they donate on that GoFundMe page, and we've been saving them as the Roxy. And there's 26 pages of comments about why people love art house cinemas.
Wow.
And when I'm having a day, as we all do, where I'm like, oh, this is too much, I go and I look at those comments and I'm like, all right, I'm back in it. And then just speaking about, have you found new audiences during this time? With the virtual cinema, you know, we did a screening and we had people with the Tenderloin Museum, we had people chiming in from London, Buenos Aires for the Q&A from across the country. And so it did make me realize, like, the audience for what we curate isn't just in the Bay Area, and how can we kind of keep that going when we reopen our doors?
Got it.
Yeah, and you know, we've been doing kind of this funny thing. It just kind of created itself. We've been doing virtual cinema as well, but we've also on Saturday nights been doing what we called stay-at-home movie night. And it's really, we just pick a movie that's just easily available. Usually we try to find it available for free on demand with cable, and then also available some other format, and usually available on Amazon Prime. And then we just watch that movie, and we have a chat room, like an old school chat room, like the early days of the internet. And we just have one of our staff, it's either me or one of our staff, moderate it, and we just have a chat. And lo and behold, you know, there's 50, 60 people in the chat room. And it's, you know, we pick old movies. We've been watching Hitchcock movies, and you know, you're just, so it all begins with, oh, look at those shoes, look at the way she smokes her cigarette and all that. And then as it goes on, it gets more and more about the plot and about the movie. And then when the movie's over, you've got 20, 30 minutes of just people, you know, giving their take on the movie and taking somebody else's take on the movie. And it's kind of, you know, that's been a big discovery of that this is just a little community of people, and it just made itself, you know, and I don't, some of the people, they just make a nickname for themselves when they're in the chat room, you know, just like the old school chat, you know, it's kind of funny. And that was a bit of a surprising reach out, and it's sort of doing it for no reason, just doing it because it works and it's fun.
Awesome. Okay, we have time for one more question, I think, and it's a combo question from Rachel Kaplan, Eva Sassoon, and kind of William Portnoff's question as well, which is basically like, how can the community help you guys get through this time? Rachel Kaplan compliments your hat and says, are they for sale? Other than purchasing online tickets, are there other ways to support staff? Eva asked the same question. How can we stay involved while being in home? Are there social media, email lists? Basically, I want to end with giving you all the call to action. How can the community help you all get through this time and then support you once you're able to reopen?
It might be different for different ones of us, but you go ahead, Adam, because we're not for profits that have different ways to support.
So we've got a couple of ways. We did a GoFundMe for our staff, which we are ending tomorrow. We've exceeded our goal, and that's been amazing. So anybody who wants to do a last minute, bump up on that, it's the Balboa Vogue Employee Relief Fund on GoFundMe. And then we opened, it's funny, just by happenstance, we got a new website like the week before the pandemic began, and we started selling merch online, which we had never done before. And so all sales from merch goes directly to the Balboa Vogue staff. Awesome. And all sales of loyalty cards, which are 5 movies for $40, goes to support the theater. It's, if you can go to CinemaSF.com, or you can go to BalboaMovies.com, and all of that is available. And there's actually some pretty cool offerings. We have kind of a bunch of cool T-shirts and totes and that kind of thing.
Got it. Cool.
I'll go and then Lex can finish up. Hey, it's your place.
Yeah.
RaphaelFilm.org's website, and our online initiative we're calling Raphael at Home. So if you go there, buy a stream. Also, you can buy a gift card that will be good shortly. What we're getting very close to doing. In fact, in a week's time, we're going to be able to start offering even more local filmmaker content. Some technical reasons why that has been possible, but we're going to be able to host local filmmaker content, and we'll have a whole bunch more live stream Q&As with local filmmakers. Buy a gift card, use that, become a member of CFI. Go to RaphaelFilm.org, and there's lots of ways of supporting us.
Awesome. Thank you, Dan. Lex, take us home.
Oh, take us home, back to the cinema where we belong, right? Yeah, I mean, I think that I always appreciate getting asked that question, because when people ask, how can we support you? I just hear, we value you, and we want to make sure you make it through this time. We're going to be doing, some merch sales of T-shirts. We're actually compiling a photo collage of everybody who's ever bought a Roxy T-shirt or has one from whatever lifetime of the Roxy. And our goal is to get the collage up to fill up our theater. So we're building that out, and staff members are sending in photos, and it's just so nice to see everybody's faces and all the weird Roxy T-shirt designs. So keep an eye out for kind of a T-shirt sale next month. Membership is great, as Dan said. We have some pretty cool member perks happening right now, and more to be released soon. SF Film has been an amazing partner for us for years, and we're working with them to do some kind of exclusive member VIP Q&As for stars that the Roxy could probably never get, but SF Film can. So that's exciting. And I think, show up when we reopen, come. I think that's what, will really do it. I think we are very fortunate, the Roxy, the Vogue, the Balboa, and the CFI, Smith Raphael, in that we will reopen. We are all very confident that we'll reopen, and it's so challenging when there are arts organizations out there that are not going to be able to weather this storm, and it's heartbreaking and heartening. But we will reopen. So when we do, we hope to see everyone there.
Lex, Adam, and Dan, you are such good people. And I just want to thank you on behalf of the whole Bay Area community, because you represent many points of the Bay, especially, we've got San Rafael, we've got the Balboa, we've got two poles here, and then the mission over here. I want to thank you for your decades and decades of community service with these theaters. And to another 100 years for all 3 of your places. And I personally, another 100 years. And I'd like to challenge everyone on this call and everyone that watches the YouTube afterwards to join the membership programs of all 3 of these institutions, help pass the baton on so that more people can have their 90th anniversary in the halls. So thank you for what you do. Everyone that's tuned in, thank you for being a part of the final day of Manny's Super Civic Cyber Conversations. This is the 110th conversation we've done in a month and a half. Thank you for allowing my dream and my small business to come true. You can become a sponsor of Manny's on our website, welcometomannys.com. I will send you all the links that were mentioned here in an email follow-up, so don't worry if you didn't write them down. And Adam, Ava wants me to let you know that the Balboa website appears to be down. So you want to check out.
So there's that. Yeah.
Thanks, everyone. Have a great night, and we'll see you all soon in your theater.
Thank you.
Bye.
Thank you. Bye.